Thank you very much for joining today's webinar. It's a very interesting subject that we are going to discuss today. Probably you might all seen how life has changed in the past couple of weeks for everyone across the globe. So this is going to stay or going to change soon. We are not sure how things are going to move. You heard world leaders saying this is going to be the new normal. And what is the new normal? We are yet to experience, and you experience through your personal life, your professional life. Everyone has got a different way of looking at how to manage the things forward. I'm sure most of the people started getting bored a bit at home, but then there's no other go. I think the lockdown is also going to be extended in certain areas, and we are not clear how things are going to be. But again, this is the best option for an entrepreneur to learn about how to manage his business during his tough time. The last 3 webinars have taken us through various topics, very interesting topics, and we have seen our attendance is drastically increasing into a very good number. Thank you everyone for joining for today's webinar. So we have eminent speakers today. Mr. Phani from Chai, Hyderabad, he is the executive director there. We have Mr. Rahul Savoor, who is the Director South of Wadhwani Foundation, who will be the moderator of today's panel discussion. So I will leave to him to welcome the panelists, his team, to discuss on this topic, doing business in the new normal. So what is the new normal? I will leave them to talk and discuss more about it. But my job is to welcome you and thank you for joining today's webinar. I can see the numbers is about close to 90, and I'm sure that there are more people joining us. Thank you very much. So today's webinar is all going to be a very interesting topic where people might not have thought about whether we will come to such a situation, working from home. If you look at the business scenario in today's world, there are many people who are suffering from the business, trying to manage the business from various aspects, managing the team, the productivity, motivating staff. Some people are sustaining, some people are doing extremely well. You might have heard the news from Zoom. They have gone 3-4 times the evaluation. So the digital platforms are doing well. Movies, the TV channels are doing well. Online chat and dating sites are all going well. So different businesses, different ways, they have their own ways of looking at this opportunity and making more customer base. So there are various ways of looking at your business, and probably today's session will help you, take you through. And I would like to quickly welcome you all once again and take you through today's program. So I'll just quickly tell you what the agenda today is and what we are going to Marathwada Association and the Automobile Component Manufacturers Association. So the lockdown is going to change our life. It's already changed half the way. Now, how are we going to adopt our ways of doing business, and how do we grow? So that's going to be an interesting topic that you all will be listening today. So this is the gist of the agenda today. We start with a networking session that probably you met all. We want to encourage everyone to start a networking before we start the webinar. So probably you might have seen a lot of people, chit-chatting each other, finding out who the other attendees and what kind of businesses, what kind of problems that they're facing. So it's a good opportunity to find out how things are going. So then we have the talk session. Mr. Phani, he's going to talk at around 3:55 because there is a slight delay in the time. So probably he might also just adjust accordingly. The panel discussion is going to be moderated by Mr. Rahul, and he will welcome all the panelists. And it is going to be a very interesting session. I would like everyone to attend this and also interact and also engage with the panelists and the speakers later after the session. You can go back to the networking area and do the networking and come back. And we just have a quick thank you note. So this is all about the session today. But what I'd like to take you through is the Aspire Media platform, a quick introduction about what we do and why we are doing this today, or why we would like to conduct more such webinars for entrepreneurs. So you might have seen our past presentations on SI Media. We started in 2010, so it's almost 10 years. We launched this portal for entrepreneurs. We launched with a site called smallenterpriseindia.com, where the site helps entrepreneurs as a knowledge source, whether it's marketing or finance or technology or logistics or even a business travel. You can get to know the latest updates and more from our website, and also a magazine, a dedicated magazine for entrepreneurs, which talks about various aspects of your business. So we have an online, we have a magazine, a print and digital. We have events for startups and SMEs, a business club which is formulating now. It's almost done. We will be launching soon along with our e-commerce platform, which is under construction now. We have our EDMs and webinars and online surveys and industry events for corporates, and also a consulting, which is meant for startups and SMEs. So this is how a magazine covers look like. It's all about entrepreneurs, for entrepreneurs, and written by experts in India across various topics. So this is a magazine. Target audience, we are across metros and tier 2 cities and villages. Every entrepreneur, we would like to educate them. So we have a learning series which goes to tier 2, 3 and metros and conduct a SME learning series or a conference. So now since the situation is not very conducive, we are doing an online webinar, which is even giving a better response for attendees to attend and learn about our events, our knowledge sharing sessions. So the reach is quite phenomenal. And now we are on Geo News, which again, they have more than 250 million subscribers, which we have an access to them. And we are also on Maxter, which is a digital platform. A quick introduction about our editorial calendar. We talk about certain topics which is key to any entrepreneur, whether it is how to grow from small to big, or franchising, or manufacturing, or banking and finance, or technology, or logistics. Each and everything has got a detailed explanation on each and every issue, which covers about 40 to 50% of our entire magazine. So these are the magazine covers that would look like. Everyone in the today's attendees, everyone will get their copy of our digital edition, of upcoming digital edition. This is a business club. It's going to give you more than 30 lakhs worth of benefits. It's also under process, which we will come out to you soon. Our awards, the 4th annual awards, is going to be in October this year. A very interesting program that we are coming out. This is going to be a 10th year, so this is going to be a major celebration along with this year's awards as well. We have a startup platform under the name of Aeonian. This is also going to be the 4th year, which we are going to celebrate. So we'll send you an invitation for all those things. All the attendees will get a free registration to nominate your business for the awards. And these are the EDMs across India. We have a fairly good split of the business across various industries and turnover-wise, and industry segments as well. So this is our consulting, where we help SMEs find out their problems and give them a solution to their ongoing issues. Or we find where the leaks are and try to give a solution to that. We have a consulting, so any SMEs who are interested, you can get back to us, and we will have our principal consultant, Mr. Krishna, who will help them solve their issues. These are corporate events, which we cater to many companies, and especially on the SME side, which we managed to do. There are some photographs, and these are some partners. And thank you once again. Not take much time. Let me introduce Mr. Phani. He's the executive director at TAI Hyderabad. He's been working with many global MNCs like Randstad India, Adico India, Wipro, and he's a graduate engineer from Wadhwani and has completed his business management from XLRI, Jamshedpur. And he's also a mentor right now at the Wadhwani NEN Foundation. So welcome, Mr. Phani, and over to you.
Thank you, Dojo. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Today, thanks to Aspire Media, good to know your various activities that you're doing, and also Wadhwani Foundation, Prerna, who called me from there, bringing me into this discussion with all the 90 odd SMEs and business owners, and probably some of them working with these companies. Welcome all of you to this Saturday afternoon edition. Like I was given time, I wouldn't really want to exceed. Uh, so, doing business in the new normal, or I would rather want to call business unusual. So, all of us are trying to understand how it's going to look like during the lockdown itself, and then post lockdown, and what is this health pandemic and how long it will last. So all of these are questions. So I'll try and see if I have any message, and hopefully and thankfully that none of us need bottles these days to tide over these rough seas, because we do have platforms like Airmeet and media companies like Aspire Media to actually communicate in a better manner. So going on, I'm trying to see if all these uncertainties and worries and crises that we heard for the first time in our lives, how do I manage these things, and try and distribute these in terms of four different buckets, if you will. Like Dojo wanted, and much as I would also have wished how these things look, I don't know. I'm completely in it along with all of you all. I just don't have any solutions. I'm also learning it along with all of us in this world. But these are the four areas that I thought I will sit down in the last 3 weeks that we've been going through this lockdown, and also the various news and the cricket commentary and the scores of pandemic and the health numbers that we WHO is kindly putting to us every evening. So these are the areas that I started jotting down and see how do I deal with these things and what should I consider. And I'm only going to tell you what I did and what I considered, so that it's not a gyan, and therefore it is for your own situation. You can try and put it up in your own context of where you live and what you do.
Accounting ERP solutions for SME,
So first up,
and what are the
obviously it is
lending options, how to manage your cash flows, and so many other different interesting topics will be
right.
covered in that.
I'll go
Opportunity
there.
in diversity.
I'll
Um,
go there.
this is the key area where all of us, all the SMEs who are not.
Yeah, I lost you there, but I will go there. So this is quickly what happened
your
maybe
your
3 weeks
normal
before.
businesses. So this is also a fantastic opportunity for you to learn. So these are coming, and we will definitely keep informing you how this will be um, forming every now and then.
Sure. So moving on, so these are the primary goals that all of us have gone through. 3 weeks back, we all have seen, and probably some of us must have discussed in our families, with spouses, and gone through each of these lists. So I'll just take first example and not go detailed into it, because we all have probably made up our minds that we are definitely in it, and there's no moving out of this for a long time. So if I am sick, what do I do? If my children are sick, my elderly are sick at home, or probably everyone else in the home is sick, or if neighbors are sick, what are my numbers? What are my details? What are my precautions? And where is the emergency calling, etc., etc. So these are certain things that you jot down. Then your next important stakeholder in the original list is probably your employees. And when you really go to your employees, you want to really go and teach or tell them, these are people working directly under you, these are your team, these are the people who've been making you successful all these years. So go and tell them probably these are the ways, or these are the aspects that even they will have to consider and see, and make their own independent lists of their own, and then be prepared whenever somebody has to probably fall sick, or what are the various grocers and supplies and this and that and the medical and all of these support, where do they get them from. and then ask them also to go and call their directs. And all I can do is review whether they call, they didn't call, and see that the whole organization is eventually well informed and well prepared whenever a need arises of such a unprecedented and such a big crisis that we are all going through, right? So this is the second level of your own employees and people at your workplace, and how do you really prepare them during the last couple of weeks. We must have done this. If you haven't, probably it's a good idea to go back and do once again. Then the next important goal is obviously your customers, suppliers, partners, your subcontractors, your vendors, your service providers, and definitely your investors, your bankers, financiers. So all of these people, not that you will go and prepare them about how they will deal with their own health pandemic, but you need to go and probably tell them and consider talking to them and telling them that your business you're trying to identify and probably come back to the continuity. You're working on the business continuity. You're definitely going to stay there, and you're working or planning for a new normal, and therefore they shouldn't be worried or they should not leave us. So that is your purpose of wanting to go back and say hello and tell them that you are available and you are definitely working hard, and actually much harder than when you were probably at office, because you're constantly available at your home and 24/7 you'll be available to take their calls, etc. So these are various other aspects in terms of who are the other stakeholders that we will continue to talk to. So the key, like I said, is to communicate, even if it means that you're doing an excessive communication, please do that. And then take time to plan, organize, negotiate. Like someone just asked, can I renegotiate my contracts? Can I tell my landlord that they can probably renegotiate a rental agreement without any changes on the clauses? And probably go and tell your bankers, because bankers have recently released a few guidelines and schemes to take care of cash flows and other your term loans and OD and other credit that you are already utilizing with them. So many of these aspects, when we can go back and renegotiate with our vendors, and then go back and tell our partners that we may pay a little later or pay some and postpone some of the payments. So try and balance your cash flow in such a way, in such a manner that we have a runway to continue for a long time if it is even if it is required. And the key is again not to really panic. So this is what we have gone through when I was considering and going through all the details that I was doing at my level. Now moving on, so what's anything new? All of us know this, right? So everybody says learn a new skill, or probably somebody says do yoga, or maybe family says what about us? I want to go and have that ice cream outside. You or Mike is mind is telling me that I need to take rest. But what is my heart telling and what am I wanting to do is most critical, because beyond business, business can always be re-established or reorganized. But what is important is your people, and people need communication, and communication needs empathy. So that is what we will do in our new normal, while we all will continue to live around with the people that we have around us. What are my considerations? So I've just listed the last 10 points, which is my last slide, and then I'll take questions. So what's my renewed business model probably looking like? And I'm not going to say each one will have their own conditions and situations. So are we really normal designing our business to live around the people that we have around us? What are my considerations? So I've just listed the last 10 points, which is my last slide, and then I'll take questions. So what's my then business model probably looking like? Then what is my digital communication platform? And what are the work from home activities? Can I, in the new normal, think that certain works, now that I've understood and learned how I'm able to do them well, can go back and probably ask a few people to work remote even after the lockdowns are over and the work and the business comes back as usual, because that real estate that I save in terms of people still working from a remote, can I really make extra cash for my future work? And how can I really think of those workplace safety measures tomorrow when I actually come back to work remote, even after the lockdowns are over? Tomorrow when I come back to work, there are new people coming into my office. So do I have a check, or how do I trace if these people who are coming in are going to be safe for rest of the colleagues that are also going to work along with them? So these are all my considerations. Is there a solution for it? Is government supporting somewhere, or can I create something in my own office? And in fact, one of the doctors said, why don't we create a disaster management or a new team of people, a committee of individuals at our own office, including the CEO, the CHRO, the head of facilities, the head of IT, and decide on a formula or a plan and a review mechanism of how, if at all such a situation occurs, or if at all I need to live in the new normal, what should I do? Said, why don't we create a disaster? Then, during the course of time, in the last 3 weeks or probably next couple of weeks, if we are still locked down at home, uh, are there any new leaders that emerge from my own teams which I have not seen before? Are there some people who are working much better or beyond the expectations that I had about these individuals? And probably they can take decisions much faster than my regular or current leader. So, are there any new leaders? Can I really make note of people who can work under stress much better? And what are the various digital resources that I have in my office? Are there some people who are what are the subscriptions? Which are the beyond the expectations that I have? How can I reduce all of them? Because today the newspaper that is hitting my office, I haven't seen it for the last 3 weeks. Do I really need a newspaper at office? Just an example. I mean, these are the thoughts that are running in my mind. And similarly, are there new partners, new suppliers, or service providers that I identified because their supply chain does not is much better than the current ones that I have in my, or the current ones did work. But these are the new people who are able to service it better for me. And are there any other ways that I can really operate asset light because of whatever revenues that I've lost in these last few days or few weeks? How can I reduce offices, reduce spaces, reduce my costly assets within the office or within the work that I can go back and just let them go and not use them because I don't probably need them. These are the new people who are able to contribute better. And then in my own work, did I consider what are the various dependencies I have created for myself over the years without knowing or unnoticingly? And now that I'm working independently from my home with my laptop and my phone and Wi-Fi, if I'm able to type a letter, if I'm able to really, do my own creative using probably Canva or any digital activities that I'm myself doing very quickly, and I don't have to depend on any resource or a person in my office to do this for me. Or am I able to pick up the phone and make calls independently from my home? Why can't I do it better from in the new normal? So these are some 10 considerations that I've gone through. There are many more. I know that I'm not the messiah. I know that I don't know everything. I'm also learning, like I said, with all of you. But in the new normal, my message is to really go and deal with it and look for those opportunities which will sustain me for a very long time. And what's your message? So for all of you, these are my coordinates for you to take down. My number and my email ID. I'll be available even afterwards. Thank you so much, and I hope I completed within the time that you allotted me.
Thank you, Phani. I'm going to take over from Dojo. He seems to have some bit of a technical issue. I think that's why there was a bit of a echo also in your voice. I think I take it as truer words are never said, so it had to be repeated. But thank you so much. I think the points you made were very valid, very commonsensical, and I think it makes a lot of sense. So hopefully the attendees here could learn something from that, and thank you so much. I hope you'll stay for the rest of the session, and then we are going to have the lounge after this panel discussion is completed. So the participants can interact with all of our speakers, once my session is over. Thanks a lot, Phani.
Thank you, Rahul, and have a great session ahead.
All right, so I see that most of our panelists are here. So without further ado, I will start the panel session. Dojo will come in a little bit later after the panel session, and he will conclude the event. So good evening, everybody. My name is Rahul Savoor, and I will be the moderator for this panel discussion. I'm with the Wadhwani Foundation, who's co-hosting this event. Wadhwani Foundation is a non-profit organization which is focused on job creation in emerging countries, and our Wadhwani Advantage initiative is helping hundreds of SMEs like yourself to survive and plan for the future amidst this current crisis. So, after the event, some of our Wadhwani Foundation team members are here, so you can connect with them in the lounge, and they can talk to you about how they can assist you. Okay, so let us get started with the panel discussion. So today's topic is about business in the new normal. So in a matter of few weeks since COVID struck, the world has completely changed, and we all know that. I mean, this has and will continue to have a significant impact on business, especially for small businesses. So what is it that we can do? What should we expect? How can we survive? These are the questions that we will discuss on the panel. It's a wide topic, so we chose a few questions that we felt were important to delve into. So in the interest of time, we will go through the entire panel discussion and then open up the floor to questions after the panel. So we request our attendees to add their questions to the question section on the right-hand side of your screen. And then our host will choose the questions, and then Roman or video feed that you can talk to our. So what we are going to do is we have identified a few questions, and I'm going to walk through that. I will ask the individual panelists the questions. And then we will request all the attendees to just put in their questions in the question section, and at the end of the session we will try to answer as many questions as possible from the questions that have been listed. So once you've listed the questions there, please raise your hand, so then our host will know that you want your question to be answered. Okay. And as I mentioned, I'll just repeat again. After the Q&A session, we will have all the panelists go to the lounge. The lounge is a place where, if you have not been there already, there are 4 chairs per table, and there are multiple tables there. Each of our panelists will be on one of the tables. I will be there as well as some of our Wadhwani Foundation Advantage team members. So you can join any of the tables, and you will be able to chat with some of us, and we will give you our guidance in terms of what can be done for your particular businesses. So please feel free to join that lounge after the session is over. Okay, so let's just get started then. Our first panelist is Mr. Ish Anand. Ish has 28 years of varied global experience in diverse fields, ranging from sports and leisure management to e-commerce, private equity, hospitality, and real estate. Ish is currently an entrepreneur who has run his own ventures with successful exits. Over the last few years, he's mentored over 40 plus startups in various areas like agri-tech, food and beverage, edtech, cloud kitchens, FMCG, logistics, etc. So we're very happy to have Ish here. Welcome, Ish.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rahul. It's a pleasure being here. Am I audible?
Yes. Yes.
Perfect.
Thank you.
So I think there's a great audience, and I think COVID has given people the time to reflect on their futures. So, without getting into too much of a background, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some stuff up on the screen. I'm going to share a screen, and based on what I share, I'm going to run you through some thoughts. We'll do a Q&A later. And
so, Ish, if you don't mind, so we have a bunch of questions that we want to ask on the panel discussion,
sure.
and we will then have a chance to have you run through your presentation.
Yeah. So
let me just go and introduce the rest of the panelists, and then we'll come back to you if you don't mind.
Sure.
Okay. Our next panelist is Mr. Padmanabhan Babu, better known as Paddy. Paddy has more than 24 years of global cross-functional experience. He's a supply chain thought leader and has extensive experience in solution development, in new business and new market development. He has hands-on experience in supply chain modeling, optimization, and process improvement. And he has worked with TNT for more than a decade in sustainable supply chains, and is currently the founder and CEO of Logilinks. Logilinks is a logistics and supply chain company enabling cross-border e-commerce shipping solutions, and they ship to over 20,000 pin codes in India and over 159 countries. Welcome, Paddy. Is Paddy not there? Yeah, I saw him a little bit while ago. Okay, so let me also introduce our final panelist, Suresh Narasimha. He's our final panelist. Suresh is a serial entrepreneur with 15 plus years of experience in building and scaling tech, consumer internet, and FMCG ventures. He has a very successful track record in turning around traditional businesses and SMEs and pivoting them to venture scale businesses. He has a very strong experience in fundraising, deal structuring, and venture advisory. So he is a governing council member of TIE and heads the retail SIG. He was also the former chair of the Mobile Marketing Associations. Currently, Suresh is the co-creator at Cocreate Ventures. So welcome, Suresh.
Thanks a lot, Rahul. I think it's really good to have a session around SMEs while most of the focus is back at startups and venture scale businesses. I think it's very, very important to focus on SMEs. And as we know, SMEs are the backbone of the country, and it's extremely important for SMEs to do well post-corona period if you have to get back to our normal growth rates. So thanks
Absolutely.
a lot for inviting, and it's a great, I look forward to this session.
Absolutely. So we will start this session now. So I will direct my first question. Suresh, if you could just mute your mic, please. So my first question is going to go to Ish. So we've heard about Mahindra making ventilators and Diageo making hand sanitizers and many such examples. While these companies have kind of reinvented themselves to lend a helping hand in the current crisis, is there something SMEs should be thinking about doing differently in the long term to survive and thrive in this new world? What are your views, Ish?
Rahul, your voice froze, so you'll have to repeat that.
Okay, sure. So the question was that today we are seeing a lot of the large companies like Mahindra making ventilators, and you see Diageo making hand sanitizers and so on. So obviously that is they have pivoted to help the current crisis where there's a shortage of these kind of equipment required. But in the long term, as things start changing and the new normal is very different from what we know it, what do you think SMEs should be thinking of doing differently so that they can survive and thrive?
Okay, so very interesting question. We are in a phase where there's a tremendous amount of crisis management happening. The likes of the Mahindras making ventilators, and a lot of other players making sanitizers, etc. That's a phase. It'll last. It'll go on for some time. but people will gradually over a period of time return to their core businesses. However, having said that, I do believe that nobody has all the answers well into the future. Small and medium enterprises, small and medium businesses will need to very, very clearly redefine themselves, because if the lockdown lasts for a longish period of time, uh, it could be that 1/4 of those don't even survive well into the future. So, having said that, it's very, very clear that this is a phase. People will reinvent themselves. Who knows, if there is a huge demand for ventilators globally, Mahindras may decide to make them commercially and market them abroad, market them globally. Healthcare systems across the world are set to see an overall. We're seeing what's happened in the US. We're seeing what's happened in Italy. We're seeing what's happened in Spain. And these are supposed to be first world countries. Um, First world countries seeing this kind of crisis and seeking help from third world countries, which, in this part of the world, we're supposed to be one. We're supposed to be a country which is progressing. However, uh, having been able to supply both medicine as well as critical pieces, whether it's PPE equipment or ventilators, etc. Life is about to change. Small and medium enterprises will see a sea change, but let's see who responds better. I think the critical piece will be who responds better to the challenges that come up in the future.
Okay. And is there anything the SMEs can do to try to maybe introspect on what other things they can do from what they're doing currently?
Yeah, there is a tremendous amount of opportunity. So the real opportunity is how they negotiate, um, a phase where they come out and they're able to reinvent themselves. The whole question about reinvention is, you need to really ask yourself, and a small and medium enterprise needs to ask itself, what will the new normal look like? Uh, while no one can actually say how long the crisis will last, what we find on the other side will definitely not look like the normal of the recent years. So, um, it all depends upon how you work with your key partners, how you see the opportunities, what value propositions you can put on the table, what relationships you can harness, what channels you can put on the table, what segments you choose to go after, and how innovative you are. So, what is Mahindra doing? Mahindra is being innovative. They're making use of their current setup and their current facilities, and they're making sure that they're able to dish out what is the need of the hour. So, innovation is the key. Small and medium enterprises, if they're innovative and they're able to put up their best resources, innovate, and look at the markets as they come up in the future. That's when they will be able to ensure that they survive and they're able to dish out good products. So innovation is the one word that I would put.
Perfect. Thank you. Suresh, your thoughts, please?
I think a few things have to be clear here. Okay, and SMEs by definition are entrepreneur-led, right? So it's unlike other scale companies, and SMEs are a lot more of entrepreneur-led. So what they need to do depends a lot on their own objectives, right? It depends on their own objectives. For example, as a strategist, I can go and tell them this is the right time for you to cut the cost. But one of the reasons why a lot of SMEs exist today is that they want to create massive employment in this one. So it depends a lot on their own objectives. So whatever we say, please take it with a pinch of salt, because you are the masters and you exactly know what is required for your business, right? So that's one statement that I want to do before we get in there. I think Ish was 100% right that it's a great place to innovate. But I think it's a Buddha moment for us. Okay, there is always before pre-corona and post-corona moments. What it enables is it almost gives us a or now gives us an opportunity to become a different entrepreneurs. Imagine everything will be reset. Your customers will negotiate hard with you, and you may or may not have the opportunity to go and negotiate with your suppliers and vendors. but there will be negotiation all around, right? So either negotiation will be favorable to you, or some of the negotiations will not be favorable to you. Because of the negotiations, relationship will be broken and some of the new relationships will start. So be prepared for this. This is an opportunity for you to change as a person, and whether you change it for good or bad depends on you. So go back to the business with a lot of energy and a lot of belief in yourself, and hope that you will be a much better person than what you were earlier, right? This is the first determination that you need to do. And I think, as Ish said, this is a great time to be innovative, right? So I have been talking to some of our portfolio companies, and I was telling them, just ensure that not even a single employee is sitting idle at their home, right? It's a great moment for you to get back to your teams and then try to tell them either they can learn something new or they can start doing something interesting which will help them once they come back into the game. Please make sure that each and every employee is busy now, and he will start getting busy in the direction of creating new thing, innovation, right? It could be improving your product offering, it could be improving your service levels, or improving your efficiency. But please make sure that you use this time to become far more innovative, not just at the not at just the leadership level, but at each and every level of the organization. You never know, all your employees may need to go and find another job, right? So please think about from all the perspective and ensure that you are innovative, and expect that lot of things will change. Your relationships will change, your vendors will change, your employees will change. Expect that there will be a change, which means you have a great opportunity to become a new organization, new person.
Great, perfect. I think that's very very good suggestion. I think cross training your staff, I think, is something that every organization should do, whether it's small, medium, or large. Today you have the opportunity, you have the time, you have the technology available for you to do all kinds of learning online. Most of it is free, and what is not is also very affordable. So I think there is absolutely no reason why your staff should not be cross training. That push should come from you as the CEO and the leadership team. So definitely a very valuable suggestion. So my next question goes to Suresh. So work from home seems to be given now, and and it may continue for a while, especially in sectors where it's possible. But in addition to web conferencing and remote working, are there other areas where technology can assist the SMEs and help them become even more competitive post-COVID? Suresh, I think your mic is on mute.
Sorry. So there are two directions in which the technology adoption will become even more necessity. A, you need to have your marketing needs to be digital enabled, and I'm not sure. I mean, in fact, we were for one of the portfolio companies, we were doing a survey. We were shocked to see 95% of the manufacturing sector in India doesn't have digital catalogs, right? And if you don't have digital catalogs, there is no way in which you can get digital as a business, right? So please ensure that whatever is required from the marketing perspective will go 100% digital. Whether it's your catalogs, whether your order making process, whether it's communication, whether it's your content, right? If you don't have presence on Instagram, so WhatsApp, Facebook, etc., please make sure that you embrace digital 100% for your marketing, sales, and customer service. That's the first thing that you need to do, right? So the second one, the organizations will themselves will become technology now. For example, uh, we have seen a lot of chaos with the retailers who couldn't figure out, who couldn't start delivering home on day one because they were just not omni-channel enabled. Their inventory was not digital, etc. So please expect that, again, like I said, everything is for negotiation. Even your competition will change, right? The Swiggy's or Flipkarts or any of the manufacturing will come harder on you. You are confused whether they are your competitors or partners now. It's safer to imagine that they are competitors in your long run. So please ensure that your backend systems, your processes, etc., are digital enabled. Your inventory should be online, right? You should be able to manage your inventory on a day-to-day basis. Your distributor communication has to go online if you are into retail or manufacturing, or your suppliers and supplier or distribution relationship has to move online. So make sure that you are online on the marketing front, A, and B, you are completely digital as far as your back office is concerned. This is extremely important for you to survive as a business, right? I'm not even talking about people who can work from home or use webinars, Zoom, etc., etc. I'm just talking about the good old operations of retail manufacturing. Please ensure that you are tech enabled. And if you haven't thought through what should be done, this is the great time. A lot of people will be available. Pick their mind and determine what is that you need to do in next 15-20 days when you come back into operations.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Ish, your thoughts on this? Sorry, you're on mute.
I think Suresh has put it very aptly. What I'd really like to add over here is, I think one needs to be careful about a couple of things. Most small and medium businesses in this country at times tend to survive from day to day. And that's a huge problem. So the first step in them coming back is making sure that they're stable for the next 1 quarter. They can make sure there are cash flows, they can make sure there are opportunities they can tie up with. The few key things that they really need to look at is they need to look at their partners. They need to make sure their partners are still with them. They need to make sure they list out a set of key activities. They also to make sure that they've got the resources, like Suresh mentioned, technology and value propositions that they put on the table, their customer relationships, the channels that they've got are very clean and secure, the segments they deal with, the cost structures that they have, and the revenue streams. If they're able to look at this in the short term, I don't see any reason why adoption to the new way of life, as Suresh put it, making sure they're technology enabled, and the Kiranas are a great example of that. I think I'll endorse that, and what I'd say is that at the end of the day, I think that's where the survival step one, and then redefining yourself step two, and then gearing up to cope up to the new world order in business. And you never know what cross border will be like. You never know what the world will be like. There could be a sea change in the way manufacturing is done. There could be a sea change in the way deliveries happen. There could be a sea change in the way technology is adopted, even in small and medium businesses where it was not adopted to a very large scale earlier. So yes, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. Suresh, you had something to say?
Right. See, I think just to add to what he said, I think first thing, you should go back and do a stress test of your organization, right? So your cash flows will have huge constraint, right? If you are expecting some cash to come in and you are hoping that as soon as the business opens, the guy will wire, that's not going to happen. Okay, and please don't expect cashes to come in time, and stress test your organization. Just imagine what will happen if you don't get any of the cash over next 2 months, right? So, or what will happen if your recurring business will drop to 33% of its original. Just do all the calculation, create a worst case scenario, and ensure that you are prepared for that. And if you are not prepared for that, figure out how you can be prepared for that. That's one. And second, one very important thing that I wanted to caution, which is normally not looked into in any of the businesses at all, is a cyber security. What happens is, as soon as this you open, you will be forced to do a lot of digital things, right? And it's just that whether you are prepared or not is one thing, but you will end up dealing with a lot of digital distributors, etc. So by definition, you will move to a lot more digital. What happens is, as soon as your organization becomes digital without having proper necessary safeguards, you may be under cyber attack, right? So which is a huge challenge. Please make sure that you have all the required certificates, required licenses. Don't use any cracked softwares now, right? This is the right time for, it is an important for you to go and buy the right licenses. Ensure that you have firewall. Ensure that you outsource your IT operations and do all the right things. Better to talk to your friend who understands some bit of IT security and other things, and get the right processes in place. Otherwise, you never know what you are fighting against.
Yes, Ish, go ahead. You'll have to unmute.
So I have something, I endorse. I think what Suresh said is very clear. Just one or two points I'll add on there. There is, there's bound to be supply chain disruption. There's bound to be a price variation of key raw materials. And in the small and medium businesses, key raw materials, especially in the manufacturing sector, play a very, very large role. If we are not able to, if the industry is not able to get a handle of that, then you have a problem in your hand, because you might just end up producing stuff which you can't sell. You might just end up having terrible cash flows, and you might not be in line with consumer sentiment. So consumer sentiment, it's very important to keep in mind, is going to play a very, very large role after COVID. And people will buy certain things, will not buy certain things. They may be looking at certain price points. So I think small and medium businesses will definitely need to reassess and ensure that they're in line with consumer sentiments. However, it's a great opportunity also to look at the export market. So if they're able to look at the export market, I think there's a huge opportunity that it will present. Regions in China which were very, very well known for their small and medium businesses and the stuff that they exported and sent out across the world, are going to, whether we like it or not, face negative sentiment. And I think Indian businesses are extremely well placed to make sure that they're able to make good use of those negative sentiments. It's business after all, and you're competing against each other. So it's important to educate yourself and make sure that you're in line with global trends also, not just domestic trends. So if you're in line with global trends, I think there's a tremendous opportunity that's there. So all the small and medium businesses, if they go out there and they seek new markets, which were available to China earlier as their exclusive purview, I think Indian businesses stand a tremendous chance. So that's what I wanted to add.
Great, thank you. I think very valuable points, and I think a great segue when you talk about exports and supply chain and cross-border logistics. We have the right person who's going to be on our for the next question. So COVID has really shown us that this pandemic can really create havoc with global supply chains, which now is common with almost all industries. So everybody's suffering. So can you give us some thoughts on how this might change in the future and what businesses can do to protect themselves from such shocks, if at all it's possible? So if you can just answer that question, both one from the domestic side, because you've seen the domestic as well, and then on the cross-border logistics as well.
So I'm saying whatever currently we are facing is completely unprecedented. We've never had challenges where both the demand side and the supply side of any supply chain gets a lack of visibility of what is happening in the supply chain, people not able to provide the supply into the supply chain. These are all challenges that we've not faced. But every challenge has an opportunity as well. Time and again we have seen from history that after every pandemic, there has been like what I was saying is after every pandemic, there has been a rebound. Normally the rebound is either a V shape or a U shape. Hopefully, it doesn't end up being so. Be it in domestic or in international, I think what's going to be key is creating the visibility in the supply chain, ensuring that if such a thing happens, there are no surprises. So planning for such an event is you could have your what we call as your disaster plan and all that, but in reality, when such an event hits, I think lives become more important than anything else. So from that point of view, the when the demand comes back, I think it's the ability to go back, ensuring that the capacity is properly utilized, and ensuring that uh, be it in domestic or in international, there is real-time information available for people on on what's happening. And with regards to what's happening currently, I think we've seen even in 2000, 2002, 2003, post SARS, whatever we know of Alibaba today was created post pandemic. So I think like what our previous speaker, I could hear them in bits and pieces when they were talking. I think what's going to really happen is that there is going to be an opportunity. It's important that we stay connected with our ecosystem, our suppliers, our partners, our customers, keep communicating to them, and and so what's going to be a reality is that people are going to be skeptical. They're not going to go out. The social distancing is going to stay for sure. People are going to be behaving differently than what they were behaving earlier. So from all that perspective, there is a big scope for the e-commerce piece to grow rapidly. And similarly, with international markets opening up as well, I think what's certainly going to happen is the retail e-commerce business on the domestic segment or on the international segment. I think surely the direct to consumer space is something that we reckon should grow well.
But I think what we will do is now we will open the floor to questions. We see that there are a bunch of questions. Rahil, do you want to take that over, or shall I do that?
Yes, you could take it over. So we would call on
Yeah,
stage Mr. Abhinav Gupta.
Dojo, go ahead if you would like to speak.
No, the same thing, because we were looking at the audience to ask some questions. So Abhinav is there.
Right. Yes. So Abhinav, you can go ahead with your question, please.
Can you hear me? I don't know.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So my question to you is like, in the new normal, I think we were all discussing about, there would be all renegotiation and there would be kind of a lot of shift towards what we are doing right now. Okay. So I think one of the key things that we spoke about right now was on the work from home front, right? So do you see any major impact in the real estate industry because of this, especially the co-working space in India recently? I mean, if I could just talk about the metros, there are a lot of these co-working spaces that have come up, and there have been massive investments, like in the WeWorks of the world that has actually happened in Bangalore and Hyderabad and most of these cities, right? So when if people can work from home, I mean, my organization just pay like for 5 floors, we pay $3.6 million a year to one of the builders over here. So I mean, do you really think that some of this is going to really change the whole industry as such, how we are currently doing the business?
This question is for Ish, if you could answer.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Shashikant, right? No, sorry.
Abhinav.
Abhinav. Hi, Abhinav. Okay, so to answer your question, commercial real estate offtake is going to suffer tremendously in the next 12 to 24 months at least. Work from home, yes, because it will take at least a quarter for the entire impact of this episode to start dying down. So more and more people will work from home. Organizations will start looking at uh, a so-called asset-light model, and the asset-light model fits the co-working space and the likes of the WeWorks, etc., extremely well. So, in the short term, definitely it will have a very severe impact on commercial real estate. The offtake will reduce tremendously. Projects will get stuck. People will think twice before completing or leasing out large chunks of real estate. However, in the medium to long term, this is bound to come back. It's bound to rebound, and the co-working space model, the work from home space model, the acceptance of technology and digital as a medium is going to increase in the next few months or years. Even small and medium enterprises will end up accepting technology as a norm. They will make sure that they accept ways and means where they're able to interact better with both customers as well as employees a lot better. So hope that answers your question.
It does. It does. All right. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
Our next question is from Vikram Puri.
Rahul, I'm happy to take Vikram's question. I'll be able to answer it.
Sure. So Vikram, if you can go ahead, please.
Ish, I think you can answer because the question is there on the screen.
Yeah. No. So I will read out that question. This question is, what do you think will happen to poorly tech-enabled transport fleet owners? This was more for Paddy, but if you can answer, that'd be great. So what would be the advice to them? Vikram, go ahead.
That question. All right. My question was, what is the impact that you think is going to happen, is going to take place on, these transporters, these people who own between, say, 100 and 500 trucks? They're not naturally technologically enabled or technologically bent, and they're going to really struggle with manufacturing being shut down and not coming back on stream very quickly. So what's your advice for them, and what do you think will happen over the next 3 to 6 months when it comes to fleet owners and transport companies?
Yeah, I think there are two things that's going to happen in the next 3 to 6 months. The first thing that these guys have to sort out is that their trucks are all over the place. They are all over the country. They don't know where their trucks. So I was saying the first problem on hand for the truckers, the small and the less than 10 to 100 vehicle owners, is going to be that they're going to find where their trucks are. They've lost complete visibility of where their trucks are, and their drivers are all over the place, so they really are not able to get in touch with their drivers. That's going to be the first problem that they have once the lockdown is removed. I think that's going to be the first challenge that these guys will be facing. Once they get over that, I think technology deployment, there are technologies available. It could be using a mobile, it could be using tracking devices in the way.
Ish, yeah, let Ish continue. Yes.
So in the interest of making sure it becomes glitch-free, let me just answer that question. So I think Vikram's put forward a tremendous question, because a very large quantity of the trucking fleet in this country is dominated by smaller players who are 10 to 50, maybe 100 trucks, and a lot of them are not technology savvy. However, what's going to happen is, I think they are going to realize and they are going to wake up to the fact that technology is important in their businesses. What's going to happen is, there are several SaaS platforms which are available in the market, which are great in terms of tracking technologies for fleets, etc., that will come into play, will become a lot more aggressive, both in terms of selling as well as making sure they price it competitively. And I think those will make a lot of inroads into the marketplace. I don't see the small entrepreneur wanting to lose sight of his trucks or his fleet of vehicles, because for him, every kilometer that is run is money. Every driver stop is money. Every bit of misuse of tire, etc., is money. Fuel efficiency is money. And whatever margins he makes, he needs to make sure that he tightens up on all those aspects. So I think, to answer Vikram's question very clearly, firms which are pushing out good SaaS and subscription models for tracking technology will be sure shot winners in the next 12 to 24 months, and their adoption is bound to increase. So, Vikram, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ish. Thank you, Vikram. The next question is a very loaded question, and I think I will pose it to the entire panel. Whoever is strong enough to answer this question can go ahead for it. So, Chetan Khurana, would you like to ask your question, please?
I think he has asked us to answer. Probably we'll go ahead and answer.
Okay. All right. So, if you've read that question, just for the benefit of all the other attendees, so the question is, Chetan wants to know, how is the manufacturing sector going to cope with the post-lockdown situation, especially with the labor being scattered and all of the constraints being put in terms of, public transportation, the number of people in the factory, and so on. How is that? How will the manufacturing sector cope up with it? So, Suresh, would you like to start off? And I will ask everybody on the panel to give their views on this because it's, I think, on everybody's mind.
Okay, so see, I think on the manufacturing side, and it's um, there is a great opportunity. There is also another question around how should there is an assumption that a lot of manufacturing will move out of China. Unfortunately, it can't happen with the current structure or current global economic structure. So it's unrealistic to expect that manufacturing will move out of China. And unfortunately, it's similarly unrealistic to expect that we'll be able to take all that load. Right? We don't have. I think it requires a lot more capital, lot more talent, etc., which we need to put together. But what will happen to the manufacturing sector? I think the challenge that we have in the short term, we need to overcome that. We need to sustain. A lot of exports in the short term is going to be impacted. A lot of money flow in the short term is going to be impacted. Please remember that your exporters are in a deeper shit than what we are today, right? So the first thing is we need to think how we can survive in the short term. What are the if you have any credit line, etc., go ahead and draw it as early as possible and just keep it, right? So that's one thing that I would suggest. And of course, rest of the stuff that we mentioned about tech, being innovative, being tech enabled, etc., will make sense. This is going to have an impact. It will going to have an impact, huge negative impact in the short term, but in the mid to long term, it will have a huge positive impact, right? If you are able to and I personally believe a lot of manufacturers can compete with China from India, right? It's not that they have huge inherent advantage, etc. I think if you sustain in the short term, in 6 to 12 months, and then get your innovations right, you will be able to come out with flying colors. Okay, that's.
Great, thank you. Ish, your views?
Yeah. So Chetan, while I subscribe to whatever Suresh mentioned, I'll add on something to it. There's a huge opportunity in the short and medium term as well as in the long term. So there are challenges in the short term of getting the workforce back, but I think most Indian employers and the need of the employee in the manufacturing sector is he or she wants to get back into the work scenario as soon as possible. So that's point number one. Point number two, there's a huge opportunity, and I've seen that happen pretty often. A lot of inquiries, etc., coming through already. Is that a lot of companies in China will now? So the shoe is going to be worn on the other foot now. So a lot of companies in China want to now do joint ventures or invest money in Indian companies because all of them know there is going to be some kind of negative outlook from a China perspective. You can't move out manufacturing operations of China overnight, like Suresh said. However, the opportunity is great that any business that has happened to happen in the future, a lot of Chinese companies who have got great products, especially for small and medium enterprises, will want to come and partner with Indian entities to push out products not just in the Indian market, but also for global markets. Because selling through India is going to be a lot easier in the future rather than selling directly from China. China has got some amount of negative publicity, and at the end of the day, it's competition. I think Indian businesses and manufacturers need to make use of that. The advantage is that in this scenario, a lot of Chinese companies are willing to put their money where their mouth is. So they're willing to put in money into Indian businesses, not just something else. I think, Chetan, hopefully that answers your question in terms of what the outlook is from a labor perspective. I believe, like I said, that people will come back to work fast.
Thank you, Ish. That was an interesting perspective. I hadn't thought about China using us as a Trojan horse, but it makes a lot of sense. If there is some bad publicity and knowing how the Chinese work, I think I'm sure that would actually make a lot of sense for them to use an Indian entity to push through their sales. But yeah, very good point you make. Paddy, we'll give you one last chance to see if you get a chance to answer the question, give us your views. Let's see if that works. If not, we'll move to the next question. Paddy, can you hear us?
Okay. I can hear you, Rahul. I know I've got a couple of points to make there with regards to the laborers coming back to work. I quite agree with Ish that they will turn up at work, and I do agree with Suresh as well, saying that let's not assume that the work that China loses is going to come into India, because in any production-oriented industry, men, machine, material, and money are the four key things that drive the business. With regards to machinery, material, and money, I'm sure it will come in. It's not a problem. But with regards to men, the kind of labor force that we have need to be upskilled. So there is going to be a large scope for people to be upskilled, to be able to produce products of value. Because what's happening is India is a cheap country. It's not a cost-effective country. So I know the difference between cheap and cost-effective is ensuring that your labor force is skilled enough, is educated enough, is trained enough to handle the requirements of large global businesses. Requirements of large global businesses. I think that's what's going to happen. In a way, if you look at the positive side of it, yeah, people will come, people will get trained, and companies are going to invest big time in learning. And
All right, I think we've lost Paddy again, but I think he pretty much answered that question very well. I will move to the last question, and then I will request everybody to move to the lounge. The panelists here will also be available on the lounge, so you have the ability to interact with them. And on the lounge, you can interact either through a video call, or you can chat with them as well. So if the technical issue persists, then you can just chat with them. You'll still get your questions answered. So the last question is from Hemant Jain. I will just read it out. So he says, how do we keep employees motivated when it comes to salary cuts or delays in salaries? These are inevitable. It's not that SME founders and promoters want to do it, but they have no choice. So what is it that we can do, and how is it that we can explain to our employees about why we're doing this? So Suresh, would you like to go ahead first, and then we'll go to Ish?
Okay, sure. I think, no one likes to have a salary cut. All of them would love to keep a job than all of them would love to keep a job too. I think what's more important is, please never underestimate the intelligence of your employees. They understand the problem that you are going through. They understand the problem that the organization is going through. Most of the great decisions, okay, it's not the first time that industry is doing a pay cut, right? So there may be other things which are exclusive to this scenario, but as far as pay cuts are concerned, we had it several times in last 15-20 years of Indian industry. So what's most important is, please go back, communicate them very clearly, and give them a roadmap. Maybe it's a great time to compensate some of the salary cuts through equities or through partnership, profit sharing, move them to variable, okay, and just make them believe that if you come out of this scenario as a winner, they are suitably compensated. Please take them into confidence. And B, my suggestion is, do either of them. Either you cut down on your employees or cut down on the salary, right? Don't try to do both. Either take a call to cut 30-35% of your workforce, that's fine, or take 30-35% of the salary cut across the board, right? So normally we tend to do a half-hearted measure, do something there, do something here. Just do one thing very, deep. If you think do a stress test. If you think you need to have a you need the salary to be cut by 40%, go ahead and do that, or make 45%. Cut deep, don't take half-hearted measures, but please go and communicate with the employees, and especially for those who stay back, take them into confidence, give them a roadmap as to what will happen if the company is successful. Be happy to share the profit, share the equity, and be more importantly, if you are asking someone to leave, or if you know that someone is really going through a mess and they have to move out of the organization, try to help them in any way possible. Try to help them find a job and ensure that you have a proper dialogue. All of us, all of them understand what you are going through. So what's important is your real leadership will be visible now. Try to help those whom you are trying to get rid of, or try to see how we can help someone whose pay cut will just devastate his life, whatever it is, right? So just have a open talk, have a communication. Please understand that the other side is matured. A, B, don't take half-hearted measure. Do one thing and do one thing very, very deep. Don't plan for one more pay cut after 6 months if the things don't improve. Assume that things won't improve and make all the necessary cut is what I would suggest. But communicate, and that will solve most of the problem.
Perfect. Thank you. That was very wise words. Ish, what would you have to say?
Yeah. So while I will agree with Suresh that job cuts is only a last resort. I think what's very, very important to keep in mind is the employer, and especially small and medium enterprises, are going to face severe pressures. It presents an opportunity in itself. Opportunity in itself is to make small and medium enterprise employees extremely productivity and efficiency driven, okay, which is something which is lacking in many, many industries. So if they are productivity and efficiency driven, what will happen at that stage is you'll start producing better products, you'll start going out to newer markets, you'll start exploring new things, and at the end of it, the silver lining is the system in India could change. The system means that globally, while people get fixed salary, a lot of their salaries are efficiency and productivity driven. That does not happen for small and medium enterprises. It's high time small and medium enterprises brought in a system where efficiency, productivity, quality, world-class products, because when you bring that system in at this stage, the pain will be a lot less. Whereas during good times, telling them that, I'm cutting this or I'm cutting that, and I'm going to give you this less and this. There are several other issues at that stage. People tend to rebel. There are 101 other implications. So my take on this is retain your employees, train them better, but make them more efficient and productive. If you're able to do that, I think at the end of the day, you can come out on top of this and ensure that not only as an organization, but individuals themselves benefit tremendously from it. So that's my take.
Perfect. Thank you. I think we have kind of run out of time now. This was a very, very insightful session for us. I thank each and every one of you, Suresh, Ish, Paddy. Apologize to everybody for the technical difficulties, but I think we covered a lot of ground, and hopefully all our attendees today found some value out of this panel discussion that we had today. So what I would like to do is hand over to Dojo, who can give us a few words, and then we will move to the lounge where the panelists will be available, as well as the Wadhwani Foundation, some of our team members, to be able to answer any questions for you. Dojo, go ahead.
Thank you, Rahul, and it was a wonderful panel session. It was quite interesting. I hope everyone enjoyed.